You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And the government statement that was issued and, constituted on the 25th of October and constituted the committee simply said that the president condemned in no uncertain terms the violence that took place and then had directed that in the best interest of the university, steps should be taken by the Minister of Education to dissolve its governing council. And it says this follows briefs and recommendations received on the KNUST and passed. And then pursuant to this, the Ministry of Education hereby announces that it has dissolved the governing council of the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology. In its place, 7-member interim council has been established with a 3-month tenure to achieve the following terms of reference. 1, assume the powers of the governing council. I'm reading with emphasis so you can get them clearly. Assume the powers of the governing council to establish the causes of the recent student riots on campus, to establish the full extent and cost of damage caused, to resolve the differences between the university management and the student body. President Akufo-Addo has also directed that steps should be taken to reopen the university within 14 days. Members of the council interim include Nana Efa Apenting, who is the chair, Professor Mrs. Rita Akosia Dixon, Dr. Edward Bafuboni, Madam Hilda Pega Ampadu, Professor Joshua Ayakwa, and Mrs. Abena Entry and Mr. Kelvin Sa, who is the SRC president. Now, we have this statement, which we understand is coming from the SRC, which I said I'll read to you immediately we return. So it is dated yesterday and says, request for reconsideration of decision about interim council. We would like to express our sincerest appreciation towards your office about the swiftness and seriousness and this is to the Minister of Education, the seriousness you attach to the impasse that happened on the KNUST. We, the students of KNUST, are grateful that you have made efforts to quickly resolve this matter to enable academic work to resume. But we would like to bring to your notice that right after our meeting with you on the 23rd of October 2018 at the Ashanti Regional Coordinating Council office, we engaged management extensively about how we were going to end this impasse. Management of the university, led by the Vice Chancellor, wholeheartedly gave us a listening ear and engaged us on our concerns and grievances. We had reached an amicable conclusion that was satisfactory to both students and management. Almost all our concerns were duly addressed, and those we could not agree on, we have scheduled to date to continue negotiations, particularly the matter regarding the hall conversion. We also agreed that together, management and the SRC will find ways of restoring all damaged properties. And then it says, attached to this letter is a copy of the reliefs we agreed on. It was almost just after we agreed on this that we were informed of the formation of the interim committee, which is supposed to solve the issues that had already been settled. Furthermore, looking at the circumstances surrounding the announcement of the committee, i.e. UTAC announcing strikes, TEU and other relevant stakeholders to threatening strike action, we the students appeal to your higher office to reconsider the decision to dissolve the governing council and replacing it with the interim committee and maintain the existing structures. We believe that your good intentions may not be fruitful with these important stakeholders agitated and will even further harm academic activity on campus. Even so, as we have resolved issues with the management amicably, it is under these circumstances that we write for reconsideration of your decision, and we hope you would consider our request so as to allow peaceful and smooth resumption of academic work. So, so to you, Sammy,
you've
again.
checked. This is genuine.
Yeah, this is what I had some, doubts about. But this is what you confirmed, that you have confirmed is genuine?
Yes, it's genuine.
Okay. Right.
I have checked. I told you I did some checks on my way here,
Okay.
preparing for this program.
Okay.
And I do know that this was sent to the Honorable Minister of Education yesterday.
Okay.
Indeed, I'm also informed that the SRC will hold an executive meeting this evening to decide whether they would even accept their membership on this interim management council. I do not think that this interim management council will survive. The latest letter from the NCT, and by the way, I agree with Abdul Malik Kwekubako that the NCT should have taken the lead in these matters. But you see, the NCT advises if you don't create room for them to advise you and to listen to them. And again, I have done my checks. You see, government rushed. This interim management council, I can submit clearly from what I'm picking up that it will not survive. The latest statement that UTAG and TEWU should join, my indications are that they will not participate because they do not agree with the dissolution. And so this afterthought will still not work. They are not going to participate. So really, what do we all want solutions. It is important for government at this point to withdraw this illegal intervention. Because if you look at Article 70 of our Constitution, Article 21, and you look at the National Council for Tertiary Education Act 1993, Act 454, it confirms clearly what Dr. Bochi has been saying, that the Ministry of Education is not to control tertiary education or control our universities, and for that matter, meddle or intrude. If you look at the preamble of the Act, it states clearly that an Act to establish a National Council for Tertiary Education to oversee the proper administration of institutions designated as institutions of tertiary education in Ghana, to provide for the composition of the council and provide for related matters. If you look at Section 2 of the Act, functions of the council, the functions of the councils are, there's a tall list, but the one important for this discussion is one. A, to advise the minister on the development of institutions of tertiary education. So when we were there was no occasion to advise the minister. So there was no occasion where we intervened directly. You work through them, even when it comes to appointing the councils and all of that. You work through the NCT.
Is what led Kweku to ask the question.
Yes.
Where has the
I checked. You know that.
Where have they been?
I checked. I checked with them. They had the announcement of the dissolution of council on radio like all of us.
Yeah, but did they hear about the disturbances on campus?
Yeah, for that one. Yeah, for that one, they were part of the team that went. You see, let's distinguish this matter into two parts. First, there's the security aspect, which I agree with Dr. Buchi that the president ought to act, and he acted through the RECSEC. And the university was closed down. Nobody questioned that.
The university says there is the executive committee of the university.
Yes.
That in consultation with RECSEC.
Yes. So
just precision.
Exactly. So in consultation with the university management and RECSEC, the university was closed down. So in my mind, the security concern had been addressed with that. Now, matters to do with when the university will be reopened and how we resolve the issues, you could just have allowed the institutions to work. Do you know that this interim management council, there are at least 4 members on the council, on this interim management council, who are members of the university council? So really, if we say that we have issues with the old council, quote and unquote, using that advisedly, why do you have members on that council coming to work on this interim management council? It's just not tidy. I would have thought that the Ministry of Education would just have, using Act 454, asked the National Council of Tertiary Education to look at the matters and advise.
Is that your solution going forward?
Going forward.
What's your solution going forward?
Going forward, the Ministry of Education should withdraw this directive, because clearly it has problems in law. It's not being recognized anyway, because the Interim Management Council would need the cooperation of all stakeholders. And from what I'm gathering, you'll be left with just 2 or 3 people who will, they've called a meeting on Monday, but from what I'm picking up, all the stakeholders do not want to participate and they don't want to recognize it. And I would not be surprised if by this evening the SRC issues a statement that even the SRC president is withdrawing, because you can tell from this letter they sent to the minister yesterday that they are not comfortable with this arrangement. And if you come to consider the fact that the university...
Now it's established that almost all the stakeholders, at least internally, within the university community, have all, impugned the purported dissolution. And they all are asking for one thing: restoration of the purported dissolved council.
Exactly.
So your question is, how will these same people, converge as an interim council to be part of the new thing?
Exactly. When they don't recognize the dissolution. So let us not, quibble over things that will not work. We can just foresee that this interim management council.
Thank you. What's your
if I can get a minute.
Okay.
I wanted to make this revelation that hours before the Ministry of Education put out the statement that, to me, has created more problems, dissolving the council, the SRC had put out this statement after a meeting with management of the university. And if I have your permission to quote, they say, "We want to affirm that the KNUST SRC still has as its main focus ensuring that all students are safe and are in good state to be educated in freedom. In light of recent developments that transpired on campus, the SRC, in its continued pursuit of a fast solution to the impasse between students and university management, we have engaged the management to address the following issues, and these are the decisions reached on the issues. 1, return to previous Hall College Week celebration schedules. All hall celebrations will be celebrated separately. Earlier...
So this was one of their problems.
2,
that instead of each hall celebrating their hall weeks
at the same
different times, they have been forced to all do it on the same day or time.
Exactly.
Okay,
2,
that's one issue.
Open engagement with students regularly. Have an open forum with students to get to know their concerns. Also, students will be treated with respect and dignity. Unnecessary harassment from any quarters in their residential life will be promptly attended to. 3, reverse decision to consolidate or centralize all student association accounts, because that's another issue.
Okay.
4, complete lift.
They said they got concessions on all these issues.
Right. 5, accommodate Unity University Hall executives. They should be given the respect due them and also recognition to function as constitutionally elected executives.
Right.
6,
University Hall, when you hear here, is Katanga. Okay, let's go.
Unity Hall is Conti.
People don't know.
University management to assure students the happenings of student brutality by security personnel will not happen again and ensure safety of students on campus. 7, reorientation of campus security personnel. Their limits should be well defined. 8, university to provide medical care for affected, brutalized students. 9, that in light of this moving forward, a reconciliation approach rather than punitive should be adopted. The end goal of the mediation program is to heal divides. Now, this is very important. We also want to reiterate that the cause of this impasse remains student brutality and not hall conversion, as the media and some others want to make it. That's in terms of, they've always said that in terms of the immediate cause. There was a remote cause, so we need to appreciate that. And it is not the official position, I'm quoting from the SRC statement, it is not the official position of the SRC and students that the Vice-Chancellor be removed. All we wanted was the issues raised to be addressed, and they have been duly addressed. And as such, all we seek is for things to be restored to normalcy, for academic work to resume.
Okay, so
signed, Kelvin, sir.
The point is making, Wadi, is that, look, this was an unnecessary intervention.
Yes.
Because amongst themselves, they were already on the path to reconciliation and resolution. In fact, Otunfo, who is the Chancellor, had already sent a representation and indicated his willingness to intervene to resolve the matters. So why the rush?
Something. Positions after the fact are always very wise and full of wisdom. I'm also privy to the screaming and yelling that government should come in, as the situation was unfolding desperately. You understand? Government doesn't come in, dip its little finger, and then rush back out. Government comes in and sees things through. The common thread in all of this is that there are rights at stake. Another thread for everybody is that there are also responsibilities at stake. And then, of course, responsibilities come with duties. And therefore, if stakeholders are willing to engage and respect each other's rights and assume their duties, not to cause mayhem and chaos and otherwise, and go further to respect their responsibilities, then government's efforts are bearing fruition. And then it is not about whether government did this or didn't do that. Then it is about restoring normalcy. And therefore, if government's instrument for restoring normalcy has been overtaken by events, then it's simple. It's simple. For me, it's not as if government moved out quickly and decided government had to act.
Do you agree with what has become the general view of lawyers, your colleague lawyers, that the dissolution is illegal, is unlawful? Do you?
To the extent that the statute setting up the university does not provide for those powers, yes. But it also doesn't answer the pragmatic question.
So let me go to my next question. If you agree with your colleague lawyers that this clearly was unlawful, is illegal, should you not be agreeing to a restoration?
No, what I'm saying, let me land. I'm saying that to the extent that the existing statute does not allow for dissolution, yes, it's illegal. But then you quickly have to move to the pragmatic situation. How do you fight the fire that was ongoing?
Undo the illegality and proceed.
No,
you don't agree with that?
Please, Samson, that's what I'm saying. We are now wise after the fact.
Because in the midst of the illegality, you are unable to make progress.
There's a folk saying that Asembi Safwa Ehini Asembi Pono. The key to one matter helps to open another door. As government swiftly moved in, listen to the sequence of events. Even whilst the Minister of Education was booking an appointment to come to campus the following day, RegSec, also of government, was shutting down. So you can imagine the situation in which government found.
No, we have moved beyond that.
Yeah, so what I'm saying is that it is a contested situation.
Yeah, I'm asking you this. What do you say? What do you say? I'm looking for your ideal resolution. If you share the view that the current arrangement does not resolve the problem,
I also have a right to
you do agree.
I haven't said that doesn't solve it.
But my job here is to ask a question. Sorry, sir. Now the question is that in the midst of the illegality, you are unable to make progress. We can see that quite clearly. All the stakeholders that you want to come together to converge to form the interim committee have indicated their, dislike of what has happened.
That's what I'm saying.
And they are all asking for a restoration.
Something.
Shouldn't that be the first step that government should be taking now?
We are making progress, like it or not.
Okay.
Because the very act of government has precipitated responsibility. People are beginning to assume their duty. Questions have been asked here. Where was the National Council for Tertiary Education? Where were they?
The government did not use them.
At this table, at this table, we are now saying that they should come forward. We live to see whether by Monday they will decide that our responsibility is this.
Well, and you have begun using them. The current statement.
So what I'm saying is that TEU, UTAG, and all those bodies, when the thing was degenerating to the point where cars were being bent, they didn't say anything. They had responsibilities. Now, government steps in, government puts certain steps in, and those steps government have put in has now galvanized all of them to their responsibility.
So it's referring to a point which may suggest to you an admission of a wrong move by government. Initially, you will see that when they were announcing the constitution or establishment of the interim committee, they used the education ministry. Now, when they are adding to the committee, they are using the National Council for Tertiary Education, which is the body they should have been using from the start, right?
I pointed it out to them.
Again, I'll use another folk saying. at the point we have dropped into an ant-hole. You understand? There is no river by. So you establish structures. Government has been open, accepting enough to the point that, as you are saying, government has moved another step. Now using NCTE to appoint extra persons onto the board. So people are coming out now and accepting responsibility.
If that is admission of the first wrong, why don't you?
Why are you talking about wrong when you are in a situation where you are difficult? It's a pragmatic situation. When you say wrong, it's as if government got up and set out to do wrong.
I'm talking about what appears to be the general consensus now, the converting
My
points.
view is that it has unfolded and unfolded very rapidly to the point where relevant, concerned bodies.
As far as you are concerned, the solution remains pursuing it through
Look at the terms of
quo.
reference. Look at the terms of reference of the interim body.
All right.
It says,
assume the
establish
responsibility
the
of the
causes
council,
of
number
the
one.
student riots.
Assume the council's job.
To be able to do the other three, it has to assume the powers of the council.
And it is an illegal body, you agree?
Right. So now we are saying that today is Saturday. By Monday, government is not immutable.
How does the illegality assume legality?
Yeah.
I think,
But NCTE has stepped up. Government hasn't said, I am standing where I am. Government has already admitted 2 persons onto the body. What stops government from saying that NCTE take responsibility and go ahead and do what you have?
Thank you. Thank you.
I don't see the problem we have.
let me suggest this.
Absolutely not.
Yes, Mr. Wuchi.
Let me suggest this to avoid the rigmarole. This is my suggestion. Let's look at the law in the context of pragmatism, because we have moved from the position where we would have had the privilege of analyzing things from a distance. Now we're in the middle of things. So we have to look at the law in the context of pragmatism. And so my suggestion at this stage is the universities are part of the public access of Ghana. And the president is the chief manager of the public access of Ghana. The public access in the constitution are vested in the president. So the universities generally constitute one of the assets that we have as a country. I think at this stage, the president and indeed the government may have realized some of the difficulties. And listening to Mr. Boabing, I think clearly...
And when you say difficulties, it's a nice way you want to say the wrongs or the errors.
He's a fine diplomat.
Difficulties. Okay. You know, the government may have recognized...
Why do you insist on errors? That's where I have a problem with it.
The government, to avoid the confusion, the arguments, but the government may have recognized some of the difficulties of their decision. And I started by saying the road to hell. So good intentions, plus real actions. I think moving forward, it's imperative that we listen to one voice, at least at this stage, because there's too much rancor.
How do we get to listen to one voice,
and that's why I started by generally stating the premise that the universities are parts of the assets of Ghana, generally. So even though there are internal structures and systems and laws that regulate the operations of the universities, overall, they are part of the assets of Ghana, in respect of which ultimately the president is responsible for. The president is responsible for Ghana and the assets of Ghana.
Yes, but his actions ought to be based on law.
Absolutely. But the point I'm making is, even though there are internal limitations and structures and systems, ultimately it is all vested in the president, generally speaking, if you look at it from that general standpoint. So the point I'm making is, moving forward, it is imperative that at least we all listen to one source. I will advise that, since there are so many constituent entities that are all speaking, I will advise that they should all be engaged individually by government. That can be done. They should all be engaged. And I think that there should be an immediate congregation of these entities, including government. So council, etc., old or new, and then the committee, etc. But there should be a congregation, and there must be a roadmap, a very short roadmap laid out. And I suggested that one way of doing this, instead of dispensing with the committee, which I still think can play a role, the committee can become the mediatory body, because the council clearly has had a legitimacy problem at this stage. They have become a party, if you like, in the dispute. And so somehow they are being rejected.
You can't put something on nothing? Is that it?
No. In this case, that's what I'm saying, that the council must be there. The council is still there.
Okay, that's as in the old council.
Well, I'm exactly. When you are
now, to get people to understand,
if it's going to be a complication,
right,
it should be the NCTE.
NCTE should
By
do that.
Monday, they should assert themselves.
Aboti's proposition now is that the council, as in the old purportedly dissolved council, is the one to take the lead in this process?
That was difficult.
No. I said the council.
For now.
No, that's not what I said. I said the council, together with the newly established interim council, together with the students, the SRC, UTAG is involved. Now we have Council for Tertiary Education involved, the Ministry of Education. We have all these entities. I think there must be a congregation of these entities to decide the matter as a matter of immediacy. And I think, that's why I think that the council, the newly established body, can play a mediatory role between these entities in terms of the way forward.
By your legal diagnosis, there is an illegality that's been committed.
If you look at it from the standpoint of the act.
And you teach all of us the law, and you say the basic principle is that you can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. So why don't you go to the right source from the beginning? Why don't you advise that we collapse the wrong and build from scratch through the right process?
You can't collapse the wrong if at this stage you have a better remedy. Let's look at the status quo ante, as Kuku mentioned earlier. The status quo ante was that there was a council. That council has the governing responsibility of ensuring administration on campus. Now, that council was there when we had the chaos. And the students and everybody else seems to have, as it were, thrown the council into the very vortex of conflict. The point I'm making to you is at this stage, we can allow the council to attempt a resolution, but the council, whether it liked it or not, has at this stage been tainted with conflict. Right. There's a mindset that the council is a partisan entity, i.e., it is part of the problem. But the students, I think, actually allege that all these things came about through the council. So there's a problem with the council in terms of perception. Whether or not it is actual, perceptions are powerful. And that's the point I'm making, that there must be, or there ought to be a third
education.
Okay, thank
Somebody
you. Let's hear Kuku.
Let NCT lead it.
Let's hear Kuku.
To be honest with you, I'm very intrigued by a certain development, and I want answers. There is a communique on concessions that
the students issued.
Yes. When, where, how did we arrive at that? Who and who sat down?
It says they and the University Council.
So have they not wasted our time? Have they not wasted our time in the process, destroyed public and private property?
I agree.
Violence, left, right, center. They had the potential to dialogue, to resolve the issues, at least those that immediately triggered the violent demonstration. What is this?
Okay,
no, it's a very serious thing. They should give us further and better particulars. When did they engage? Where did they engage? How did they engage? And at that time, other stakeholders apparently too were not involved. So government then rushes to put up a committee. What is this? What is this? I'm irritated by all of them. They wasted our time. With violence?
And you know, this
government coming to restore security, you then go ahead and meet without government.
Let me give
unless that thing is fake.
A minute on this point, and then I'll share a couple of your messages with you. We take a break. We'll return to deal with KNUST GVG. Imani Ghana says we could have gotten the 170 how much? $78 million project for less than 1% of that price. So they say, why did President Akufo-Addo endorse it by going to launch the monitoring platform? Yes,
just a quick one. And the fact is this. I think my colleague on the panel, Honorable Okujita Blakwa, mentioned earlier the fact that we can demonstrate on campus and it's a constitutional right of students. It is a constitutional right, but on campus there's a limitation.
Right.
And the Constitution, unfortunately, we don't have time to get into that, but there are always limitations. But I also just want to touch on the fact that assuming that their complaints are true, that the students are being caned or lashed or being made to kneel down, we're not sure whether they're true or false, but assuming that they're true, I think that it goes to a question of patrimonialism, which has to be watched, particularly in the context of universities. Because however young a university student is, he is at the terminal point of education. And at that point, he is being trained not only in the books and the letter, but he's also being trained in the arts. I'm sorry?
You keep saying he.
Well, in law, he actually imports she. But that's fine, we'll look at that. But he or she is being trained in the arts of maturity as well. So if at that point, we still have to give them the kind of training that we give to, if you like, underage people, then I think there's something problematic
The
with that.
universities feel they are providing some protection because these days you have very younger, people entering the universities. So when you heard about, so tell me, what was your reaction when you heard that there is a time within which in the night a guy should not be seen in a ladies' room
Students
in
will
the
kill.
university?
Students will kill for this.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm saying.
How did you feel when you heard about that?
No, I think
policy.
I think generally these restrictive rules are wrong. First of all, there are rules. There have always been rules. For example, that male and opposite sexes cannot sleep, or have sex. Let's put it that way. Have sex, for example, in the halls of residence. Even though a lot of people know that these are observed in breach. The point is this. At the university, there's a certain presumption of maturity. And I think we should accord to the students.
That's why you don't need an exia to go
Correct.
out.
And we should accord them that. And there are remedies also for violations. But I think treating people in a way that suggests that they're perpetually immature to take care of themselves, it's in itself problematic.
The universities are supposed to act locus parentis, right?
Yeah.
As guardians for the students who come in there.
Not in the universities.
Not in the universities?
No, in local parentis actually ends at the secondary schools.
Oh, I see.
In the university, because the point is, in the university, a lot of people there are parents themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
They don't need parents. And I remember in the 90s, there was a PTA that was held when we went on a demonstration that we're not going to do cost sharing. And we made a joke about that because a lot of the attendees were themselves students. But the point is that the final one is that this has to be addressed. Unfortunately, we don't have time. There is no equity of past students in the halls, and there is no right to residency of students. Therefore, if the university authorities take any decision as far as the halls are concerned, and you do not agree, you have an option to leave. But this business of we own this place, and we have a certain interest, and my good friend mentioned earlier about morale and solidarity, which is true. I mean, we all know these things are. But the key question you should ask on the other side is, to what extent, for example, do past students contribute to their halls of residence? When these halls are in the dilapidated stage, what is morale or solidarity if, frankly, we don't keep them in the shape in which they are, or we don't help in their development? All we do is so.
When there's
Unfortunately, we don't
we
have
are
time.
complaining about alumni, but we have given them offices in our universities. How do you reconcile that?
Yeah.
But if the government is not changing its position, should those who advise that the university should go to court, maybe through a judicial review, to get this thing,
maybe
stuck
I can
off?
say something for the
Should
government. I can say something for the government on that matter.
I think at this stage, any protracted controversy should and can be resolved by law.
Okay.
I think any further attempt at illegality, because the UTAC strike, and we could not have time to go over that, but the UTAC strike is equally wrong.
Okay.
The UTAC strike is wrong, and all the other pronouncements which have been made, they are all wrong in the face of law. So we should not allow just one illegality to create further.
Just wasting our time. Yeah, wasting our time.
Can we get a minute each?
At this point, I
Wasting our
think by
time and
Monday,
energy.
everybody should get on board
Together,
with the view
they
to
could
resolve
resolve this
the
thing.
situation on campus. Government is not averse to changing its position if that is what will restore normalcy.
Okay.
I don't think government is averse
All
to
local
anything
branches
at all.
of UTAC have been directed to have emergency meetings by Wednesday, the
That's an
31st
escalation.
of October, and then
Necessary.
we'll hear from them. That's a threat.
An escalation,
No, that's not
escalatory
proper.
processes are not
That's not good
advisable.
enough.
Okay.
That's
It's
good.
not good.
Everyone should be
Yes.
constructive
Yes.
at this stage.
30 seconds.
and
We are taking a
calm.
break. 30 seconds.
Yeah,
please.
something I was going to point to that threat, that as we speak, the unions are mobilizing.
No, that's not good.
UTAC National Executive are on KNUST campus. The National Executive is now, it rotates. It's now at the University of Cape Coast.
Okay.
But they have relocated. They have sent out this directive that there should be meetings. And it's happened before in our history, where they would go and meet, and then there'll be solidarity action.
That's a domino
And
thing.
The domino effect. All our universities will be closed down.
But you
When
touch
you
it
listen to them, they seem to have a fear, a concern
yeah.
that there is a
Yes,
general,
and
there's a general situation where the government is
Yes.
attacking academic freedom.
Exactly. And if you look at what happened at the University of Education, Winneba, at the Cape Coast Polytechnic, at GIJ, it will appear that a consistent pattern is being
It's
established.
evolving,
So their concerns are legitimate.
Okay.
That is why an urgent
But
action is
right.
required.
All right.
That is why I would wish that before close of today, because
Right.
they've mobilized, they're on their campuses. They're going to hold meetings
not
all
fair.
weekend. entry into
it's
early.
not fair to themselves.
Can
and to the situation.
government just withdraw? What does it take? It just
No,
take a
no,
statement
the way
to
it should have
withdraw
been
it.
done. By the way, it should have been done.
And then
leadership of
One would have expected.
and then ask the
The
National Council, restore the council, and then ask the National Council for tertiary education
Okay.
to
Even the modality of engagement is
Thank you. Let's
problematic.
hear what
There should have been
what
consultation
others
behind
who
it.
are
Yeah.
watching,
They should consult.
who are
Yeah.
watching
They
and
should
listening to
contract.
us
Too
also
much
have to
public-
say.
It is too
And
much.
one from Professor Ransford Jampo, he says that please let's be pragmatic and stop wasting time. If the students say they have reached a settlement with their university authorities, case must close.
Yeah.
Government must respect the statute that governs universities and stop the needless political interference. Otumfuo, as Chancellor, is more than capable of dealing with the issue.
No, but don't forget he was
Dissolve the
also there.
illegal
He was there.
interim council and restore the original governing
We
council.
hide that.
In dancing around the problem, they have created more chaos. Dr. Apak, okay, another
He was
lecturer,
deputy chief on
lecturer, and who used to be known to be
with a partisan view.
like a serial demonstrator in the universities. He says that the interim management council put in place by government to manage affairs of KNUST has no legal basis and has already lost legitimacy, having been rejected by the major stakeholders. Government could have done better by allowing the National Council for Tertiary Education to lead the process.
They were also sleeping.
Okay.
Apak was
Okay, now that they are awake, maybe let's allow them to do something.
I'm for that.
And let me end the messages I'm reading. I will return to read a couple more, but let me end the messages I'm reading with one from Asan Kuma. He says, the court took a decision against the student. That is legal. Internal stifling of protests, including beatings happening in the university. He says that is illegal. Firebombing of rooms, illegal. Further stifling of protests, he calls that illegal. Student riots, illegal. Government dissolution of council, illegal. UTAG and all those announcing strikes, illegal. That's a good summary. We'll be right
what's
back.
legal now? Chaos is legal now.
We are institutionalizing illegality. That's what we are.